Hello everyone, and today we have a very special guest with us on the channel. This is Nitin Sangwan sir. He's an IAS officer in the Gujarat cadre, and he's the author of the, I would say, most famous book in sociology optional, which is Essential Sociology. जो किताब से मतलब मैं जब तैयारी कर रहा था तो मैंने भी पढ़ा था. And I think one of the first times when I started posting on Twitter, तो मैंने सर को थैंक यू भी बोला था बहुत publicly. And I remember कि उस टाइम पे भी सर ने लाइक किया था, तो मतलब वो ट्विटर पे that was one of my high points. And recently, sir has come out with this new book, Essentials of Modern History, Modern India, Essential History of Modern India. And this is also a good primer. मतलब obviously spectrum वगैरह काफी किताबें हैं इस एरिया में, but दिस इज मोर ऑफ अ नैरेटिव ड्रिवन बुक जहाँ पे आपको सोचने का तरीका समझ आएगा कि भाई हिस्ट्री के बारे में कैसे सोचा जा सकता है. तो आई थिंक काफी लंबा हमने एक इंट्रो कर दिया. सो सर कैसे हैं आप? वेलकम टू द चैनल. हाउ आर यू डूइंग?
Hello Abhijeet, I'm good and I hope you are also good. And first of all, thanks for inviting me to your channel. And I hope whatever conversation that we will have today, that will be fruitful for the aspirant and the general viewers of your channel.
So that would be the aim of it. So sir, let's basically start with the book. आपने जो नई किताब लिखी है, Essential History of Modern India. तो what was your idea behind the book कि मतलब कैसे किस तरीके से आप इस किताब को लिखना चाहते थे, and how satisfied are you with the outcome that you have in the book that has been printed?
Basically, the idea behind writing this book was first of all my interest in Indian modern history. Secondly, when I was preparing like so many other aspirants, and as is the case with the subject like history, which is very very vast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult question for everybody that how many books to read, till how deep you should go.
Yeah.
That was the question that was lingering in my mind also when I was preparing. And in fact, when I used to read the NCERT books, they are very good. They have been written very lucidly, and they are to the point. But if we see the demand of the examination, particularly in the recent times,
Yeah.
when the examination has matured over the years, so the examiner would also like to ask more questions which are not repetitive in nature. So that is one reason that you need to know what are the sources that you need to refer. So I had developed a sense during preparation that what other areas can be explored. So I thought maybe we can compile those ideas in the form of a textbook. So that is how it started. And secondly, the existing books which are there, the popular and the books which I personally consider which are of very high standard, whether they are NCERTs or the other standard books like by Bipin Chandra, they are not oriented to the examination per se. They are written for some other audience and in some other context. So that was the another reason that I wanted to have one very very focused book. And apart from that, the other books which are available, there are some quality issues which everybody may not feel or may not observe. So I thought that there should be a standard textbook, and whenever a subject is introduced to an audience, we take sometimes the author takes it for granted that the audience, the readers must be knowing about certain things. So, but that may not be case always.
Very
so
true.
That was the reason that I thought let's have a book which is not very very extensive, which is concise at the same time, doesn't miss out on anything, and also has certain elements which for example, we have provided a lot of definitions. We cannot take it for granted that everybody knows everything. I mean, if I ask you, say, what is the meaning of Jamindar, then in today's context, say in North India, a Jamindar is a person who is associated with land, cultivates land. But in say 200 years from today, it had some different meaning. And again, in the Mughal times, it had some different meaning. So these things needs to be clarified. And that we have tried in our book. And finally, history books should be very very interesting. I mean, it should not be only about dates, facts, people, places, incidents. So we have tried to make history very very interesting by incorporating a lot of elements like a lot of diagrams, a lot of pictures, graphs, or interesting information, which keeps readers engaged. And that's important also because, so that it remains in your memory.
So I think this is one of the most frequent problems that people describe with history in particular, sir, कि इतना कुछ है याद करने को याद नहीं रहता. तो like how did you tackle that sort of a problem while you were preparing? कि जब आप पढ़ रहे थे तब भी ऐसा तो नहीं था कि भाई सिलेबस कम था या मतलब कंटेंट कम था, कंटेंट तब भी था. So how did you manage all of that content कि भाई याद कैसे रखा जाए, रिवाइज कैसे किया जाए? What were your techniques when you were preparing?
I could see in your background also there is one poster, imagination, explores. I think that is
Unlocks
explore.
the universe.
Okay, unlocks the universe. So it's about I believe it's about imagination. So how you visualize things, what is the story that you makes. So it's all about that. Unless the book develops that interest, or the content that catches your interest, it's very difficult for anybody to to remember things. And that's why there are some subjects at times, I don't say at all the times, and with everybody, that they are not able to catch attention of the reader.
Sometimes I feel I agree with your point over here, sir, कि sometimes the author has not made the effort to make it interesting. Sometimes it's a very dry book.
Yes, so that is the one reason. And secondly, you have to create your own stories, and maybe you need to reorganize what has been presented in the book, or in the content, in a way that it suits your taste buds, or it suits your requirement. If I
It
give you an
suits your
example.
understanding essentially कि आपने
Yes.
अपने तरीके से एक बार ऑर्गेनाइज कर ली किसी चीज को तो आपको याद ज्यादा रहेगी rather than आपने किसी और का ऑर्गेनाइजेशन देखा है बस तो.
Absolutely. And when during the preparation there is this common refrain of making notes. So exactly that thing is this thing. When we say that you should be making notes, it doesn't mean that you summarize what you have read, but it is actually paraphrasing or rephrasing what you have read into your own words, into your own language, into the style which you are able to understand. So that is more important, because every aspirant is coming from different background, in terms of academic background also, and also socio-economic milieu also. So that due to that reason, everybody has a different grasping power of different issues. Maybe something which is easier for Abhijeet is not easy for Nitin Sangwan, and vice versa. So that is the reason that we're not making notes making helps. So you are very very conversant with history, so you need not require jotting down things on history. Maybe instead you can spend your energy, say, on Indian economy. So only maybe for that topic or the set of topics you are required to make notes. And why I'm saying this thing, that we have very very limited time while we are preparing the syllabus. The only I think the difficult part about this examination is the extent of information that you have to process. It is very very extensive. So for that you have to be very very selective, and I think that's what you need to learn while you're preparing.
मतलब effectively, if I say, sir, this is, I think, good training for effect and in the end becoming an administrator, because as an administrator, I feel a big significant chunk of your job is organizing the work that you have, because there is always more work than you can handle. What do you think, sir?
It is partially true, and it may not be true always, because you work in different profiles, in different positions. But yeah, sometimes you are overburdened, and like in general life also, at different phases you have to set your priorities. Maybe you have to push some things behind, so that you can deal with other things at a higher priority, because they have a wider impact on your life, or on the lives of others. So you have pertinently pointed it out. That is the case with the preparation also, in administration also, and maybe in general life also.
So, sir, like obviously, ये थोड़ा हटके है preparation से, but this is also some of the things that are generally said while preparing for government services. That people feel government services have a better work-life balance than corporates. What do you think, sir? Do you agree or do you disagree?
I think that's a very sweeping and generalized statement, which is
I agree
not
with you.
I have seen both the I mean both
Cases.
the aspects of working life. I have seen private sector also, and in private also I have seen industry also, service sector also,
Hmm.
IT also, and in government also. Now I have seen couple of positions. I would like to disagree with that, because it all depends upon where you are or in what profile you are.
Hmm.
Definitely in private sector, there is slight uncertainty about your job. So
Hmm.
that's why you always remain on tender hooks, and you try to overdo even yourself sometime. So
Hmm.
that is one reason. Definitely, we cannot deny that people tend to work higher, very hard. But at the same time, if you talk about private sector, then there are many big
Perks of it.
organizations which actually value work life balance a lot. And maybe you must have read also in newspapers or maybe in social media that maybe in many developed countries and even in India,
Hmm.
companies, they write to their employees that we encourage work life balance, and after office hours you should not stay, or on weekends you should not stay, your
Hmm.
telephone should remain switch off. And my friends who are working in the finance sector, in that sector, since in routine there is a very heavy toll on the mental
Yeah.
toll on the employees. So
Hmm.
they encourage actually every 6 months, or say maybe every quarter, their staff to go on leaves, long
Hmm.
leaves, 10 days, 15 days, that you should pursue something else. Similarly in IT companies also, there are frequent get-togethers, there are some outings, there are this thing and that. So they try to promote that.
तो सर,
So
क्या ये सरकार में भी होता है? Does government also have like department and ministry
mm,
के सब wings वाला outings?
it's less here because of certain other reasons.
Hmm.
Uh, because it's not institutionalized so far,
Hmm.
for various reasons. And but we cannot say that the government
Hmm.
jobs provide a better work life balance. I think it all
Not
depends
always.
sometimes on the person also, that how do you take your job, how efficiently you work. If you But I personally feel that 8 hours of job, in whether it is in private sector or in the government sector,
Hmm.
if you do your work sincerely, then 8 or 8 9 hours, that is sufficient
Yeah.
for everybody. Yeah.
So I think that is also a fair point over here. And sir, अब जैसे in service, what a lot of people hear and sometimes a lot of people also plan for or hope for is कि there are IAS officers who go to Harvard for higher studies. तो what are the general processes for that कि भाई किस तरीके से जा सकते हैं, कैसे अप्लाई करते हैं, and who are the people who are eligible for those sorts of things?
The general rule is that after 5 years of service, you can, apply for a study leave. In the
Hmm.
government, there is a process of applying that, and you can go for a study leave, right? So that is the basic process. I will not talk about the great technicalities of that,
Hmm.
but and like any opportunity of getting a degree, you in the government service also, you have choice either for to go for a private course. It's like applying for any other examination or applying for any other course.
Okay.
And there are some opportunities of scholarship also available, so you can avail those also. So this is the broad idea about that. And ultimately, once you are in the job, it all depends upon the personal interest of the officer, whether he or she wants to pursue. There are officers who uh,
Hmm.
never try that, and there are officers who are very keen to
Yeah.
go for such
तो सर,
opportunity.
like you just mentioned कि वो personal interest वाली चीज होती है, right? So that's what I'd want to know from you next is कि what was your background? आप पढ़ाई में were you an average student? Were you a good student? As in, like, what was the first motivating factor for you to start preparing for civil services? What moved you towards this area?
Uh, I wouldn't rate myself uh, as an average student, because uh, till class 10th I can claim that yes, I was a good student, in the sense that if the marks are a criteria, then I was a good student. Yeah. In whole school, with various sections in the school, I
Hmm.
was uh, the fourth topper in the school, and in science and social studies I had the highest marks. But after that I lost my focus slightly. And you know I
अभी
was
12वीं में थोड़ा चिल कर लिया
comfortable.
था.
Yeah. So, but after that, when I joined my first service, even at that point of time, this thing was not in my mind. I wanted to do an MBA from a good college. Then I took an admission also. I did my MBA also, and as
You did your MBA from MDI Gurgaon, right, sir?
no, I did my MBA from IIT Madras.
Okay.
So from there, after that, I joined one organization called ABB, which is a Swiss multinational in automation, and then after that, I joined Infosys. So while I was in Infosys, at that point of time, somebody, there was one of my colleagues who was actually preparing for UPSC, and I had heard about it. Ki UPSC is something, and there used to be some talks in family also that maybe you should prepare for civil services.
तो ये तो
But
सर आई फील कि इफ देयर इज अ ब्राइट किड इन द फैमिली, उनको दो चीजें बोली जाती है भारत में, या तो भाई आईआईटी कर लो नहीं तो आईएएस कर लो, राइट? ये तो बोला ही जाता है.
uh, yes, true to some extent, but I think things are changing quite fast now.
दैट आई एग्री
Uh,
विद आल्सो कि
Maybe yours and mine generation faced those common refrains, but yes, times are changing fast. So
very
it was slightly accidental for me because on that day I still vividly remember I was sitting in my cubicle in Infosys in Chandigarh, and that was the day next to the prelims examination. So that guy was
which
having
year,
the
sir?
it was in 2011, I guess.
Okay.
So, yes, 11. So, I saw the question paper, and CSAT was introduced for the first time in that year.
Yeah.
So, I saw the paper, and CSAT was made mandatory also. Unlike here, mandatory in the sense scoring. The scoring was completely
नंबर जुड़ते थे उसके.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
For prelims qualification.
So I saw that okay, I can easily make. I asked him what is the cutoff generally. What is the cutoff for this? And he told ki 50%. Then I thought ki yes, I can clear this hurdle of prelims, and after that there is mains, an interview. Let's see how it goes. That was the moment, and on that very day, I thought, okay, let me take a plunge of this thing, civil services, and I searched on internet, and the first I just typed coaching institutes for IAS in Chandigarh. The first result which came, I called on that number, and I asked them, do you have any coaching available, and what are the timings, and is there any batch? Then they told you just come over. I just went there. There was one receptionist with whom I talked to, and I asked the same question, and he said, what do you want to, how do you want to start? And I told him, I don't have any idea. You tell me what should I do. Then the person told me, okay, you should start first with optional. Then I told him, okay, but what optional? I mean, which option? Then he said, whatever you like. Then I said, you guide me. And that guy actually told nowadays public administration is very popular. So you start first with that thing. Actually, I think he sensed this guy doesn't know anything, and let's catch him up. Yeah. So that's how it started. I mean, the start of the preparation was purely accidental, and it was only circumstantial, I would say. But once I enrolled into that, then because I didn't have any background. There was nobody in family or in friend circle or anywhere else who could tell me even ABC of civil services preparation. Nowadays, information is thankfully available in a quite democratic way due to people like you. So,
I think because of people like me, what has happened is a flood in the reverse direction. There are so many people now telling how to do, what to do, XYZ, now it's a problem of trust.
Yes, but at least somebody is telling something, right? I mean, you see, starting with zero is definitely worse than starting from somewhere, right? So at least if you have some direction, then definitely that is helpful. And we are working in a market economy in the sense that even the channels like yours or somebody else, they are driven by trust, they are driven by the reviews, they are driven by. So if you are not performing, then you will definitely not have any followers. So so you have actually won the trust of your readers and your audience. So I think that is the one factor, and everybody is smart enough to, at least, even if we make, say, purchase from an online platform like Amazon or Flipkart, then we see reviews, we see ratings, and so
Very
that's
true.
so that mechanism is working here also. So definitely, I still feel that despite the glut of information,
Mm,
at least there is access is now democratic.
mm,
Earlier, the access was an issue because only the physical brick and mortar coaching institutions which are there, they sort of had the monopoly over the information. I still
very
remember in those days there were hardly one or two websites. Murnal, he had just started at that point of
Yeah.
time. He still did not have great fan following,
Mm,
but online options were very limited. I mean, you still had some trust issues or the content quality issues, but
mm.
they have been largely overcome now. And I think now, even if you don't have a single penny in your pocket and you have access to internet, then I think you have fair chance. So
So
that's
that part I completely agree with, sir, because I think this is a story I keep telling again and again. One of our students from the 2021 batch, Viku Achumi,
Hmm.
he was somebody who was sitting in Nagaland,
Hmm.
never left Nagaland. He prepared from there, and in his, I think, fourth attempt, he got selected. He's an IPS officer now.
Hmm.
तो मतलब पहले when there used to be a time where there was a requirement that in order to clear civil services you have to go to Delhi or any other center क्योंकि that is where the information is, as you rightly said. But right now I agree with you that there is information enough कि you can sit from home and prepare and कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, मतलब you will be in competitive shape. And sometimes I feel कि it can be better to prepare from home now because मतलब दिल्ली जाके तो distraction भी होती है, तो ये
The
कोई
distractions are also there, and then you have to fend for yourself in many
Hmm.
aspects, like right from your food to your clothing.
Yeah,
If you are at home, then you can manage these things quite well. You don't have a headache of paying rent, say, every month, and it's
yeah,
expensive also.
very
Uh,
true.
I also remember that once I inquired about this thing in Delhi, then even room rents were so high that it was
सर
a lot of.
आपके जमाने में रूम रेंट क्या होता था? What was the room rent in your day?
In Delhi, I mean, it was in 2012
12,
or 13, I guess,
Hmm.
when the syllabus changed. So for 1-2 months, I lived there just to because I didn't take coaching for general studies or anything.
Hmm.
Because once I coaching for public administration, then I got some confidence. Things are not difficult.
Hmm.
There's they see, syllabus is not difficult for UPSC. It's merely that you need to know from where you have to do, and you need some direction initially.
Hmm.
After that, you can sail through. So, but since syllabus was new, I thought maybe we should not miss out, and I had started my preparation quite late. It was
You
already
were already,
20.
I think, 24 or 5.
No, 28 actually.
You were
So
28.
yes, I had only two attempts. 30 was the upper limit. But
So
thankfully,
this
government
35 when the
revised
age
it.
limit increased.
Yeah, it was increased. So I got another two attempts. So I didn't want to miss out on that only chance that I was left with, because in first chance I couldn't clear mains. Paper was two options were there, and
Hmm.
public administration of paper in that year was very bad,
Hmm.
and schooling was very poor. So that's why, I mean, we stayed for around 2 months in Delhi.
Hmm.
And we paid, say, I think 16,000 rupees for one room at that point of time, some 10 years back. So that was very high. But we were two guys. So,
Hmm.
and since I was working at that point of time, so I had left my job, uh, so I could afford that.
Hmm. कुछ savings पे आपने
Yeah.
करके और फिर then
I
that's
could
what
rely
you
on my savings.
want.
But
So
very
sir,
expensive.
like given that you have faced these hardships, given that you navigated through them, so right now you're also saying that obviously a lot of information is available online, but I want to know from you कि after all that experience, after आपने जो भी सीखा, you've written books now, and two of them deal with two separate stages of the exam. One deals with mains, मतलब in-depth sociology, and one deals with prelims, and also mains, but prelims के लिए भी काफी useful है ये. तो what is your recommendation for how should somebody start preparing if they're absolutely no, assuming कि कोई बंदा पहली बार आके a guy or a girl for the first time is coming and watching this video and they want to learn how to start preparing, what would you tell them?
My advice will be that you start with the one fundamental and one basic book of every subject. You should not be buying multiple sources, multiple books and everything, because if you put too much things into your platter, then it's very very difficult to eat, and sometimes it puts you off also, because it may it may it may simply discourage you because of the overwhelming nature of everything. So first you should start biting only that much you can chew, and
Yeah.
initial 3-4 months I think it's that way with everybody. Nobody can claim that I had a very flying start, or I could remember everything, and now everything is on my tips. That is never the case. That is one thing that I would like to suggest, that never ever buy more than one book for one subject. Whatever you do your research, say online or anywhere else, whatever best you feel. For example, if regarding history, if you think that I should read only NCRTs, then you should read only NCRTs. You should not look beyond that. Similarly, for geography, if you want to say ki if you are buying this book or that book, then you should buy only one book. Why I'm saying this thing? What I have seen in my circles also, that that sometimes people feel very very disheartened once they feel left out. So that feeling of left out in this examination is very very terrible, like any other competitive examination. And once you leave once you lose that focus and that track, then things become very very difficult to handle. So that's the reason that I want to urge everybody who is listening to me, that make a very very humble start. You may have self doubt, that is absolutely okay. After 3-4 months of serious effort, serious preparation, you will find and you will learn that now things are slowly coming under control, right?
And I think I completely agree with you, sir, in the sense that this was the shelf that I was reading in my first and second attempts. I did not clear for this very simple reason कि मतलब मैं सब कुछ पढ़ रहा था.
Actually, I had out of all the books, for my preparation, I used only one portion of that. So it is like 1/6 of what you have. I never had more than that, because and I used to wonder. I mean, how can people have so many books? And because you cannot remember. I mean, you are not.
नहीं, we are not, but sir, it's the same thing, right? कि like हम UPSC की किताबें पढ़ते हैं तो like the same expectation that you have from those books that you're not going to remember them by reading them once, right? आपको जब UPSC की तैयारी भी कर रहे हो, आपने मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री बिपिन चंद्रा से करी है, मतलब शेखर बंदोपाध्याय करी है, स्पेक्ट्रम करी है, या नितिन सर की, बोले wherever you've done it from, you will have to do it again.
Yes.
Right. तो similarly for the rest of the books also, अब कुछ उसमें से हैं, जैसे ये ऊपर वाला शेल्फ है, ये कहानियां हैं. एक बार एंटरटेनमेंट के लिए पढ़ ली, बहुत है, कोई जरूरत नहीं है उसके बाद दोबारा पढ़ने की. बट ये वाली जो शेल्फ है ऊपर वाली, दीज आर ऑल आइडियाज कि भाई लेट्स से हाउ टू वर्क आउट बेटर, या भाई हाउ टू फोकस बेटर, एंड दीज आर थिंग्स ऑब्वियसली द मोर यू रिवाइज देम द बेटर यू विल बी एबल टू इम्प्लीमेंट, सेम एज यूपीएससी. तो ऑन दैट नोट सर, I'd like to ask you कि what was your revision process? कैसे आप रिवाइज करते थे चीजें, या आपको कितनी जल्दी याद हो जाती थी, या प्रोसेस क्या था आपका लर्निंग का?
Basically, I had slightly different approach in the sense that I always felt that you have very very limited time, right? So maybe suppose in your case you are saying that you used to.
I wasn't reading these all of the rest of them during preparation. This is like from way before. जब मैं class 9th 10th में भी था, तो I've always liked reading. So this is my library that has grown over like 15 years.
Okay, so basically in my case, I would like to repeat what I have said earlier, that you cannot make notes of everything. First of all, you should be very clear about this thing since very beginning. Maybe 1 or 2 subjects you can choose at the max about which you will make notes, and I will suggest that the current affairs should be one of them. First of all. Secondly, it can be anything else, whatever you want. Thirdly, I would like to say, don't make notes of something which is very very standard and which is very very to the point and which is designed for this examination only. For example, I give you an example. The book by M. Lakshmikant regarding Indian polity. This book is designed actually for this examination. Though over the years it has grown, it has
Grown,
it was
changed,
slightly
evolved.
thick, and
Mm.
now I think they are also losing some focus, because yeah, it
Obviously.
has become very very heavy. They need to pare it down, because nobody asks those things whatever they are writing in that.
Mm.
So now maybe you can make notes out of that, but at one point of time it was manageable. It was of this much thickness only,
Mm.
if I remember, and it was good. I mean, it was very to the point. For that you need not make notes. So for such books you can maybe you can mark in the book itself,
Mm.
so that it draws your attention whatever you think that it is relevant. Fourth thing that I would like to say, what to read and how to read is driven by what. It may be driven by the suggestion which is given by Nitin Sangwan. It
Mm.
may be by suggestion given by Abhijeet, or something else. But I think the most important thing is the syllabus and the type of questions that UPSC asks. That is most important.
That's
And
true.
that you have to read, previous year's papers for mains, as well as
For
prelims,
prelims.
almost every month, and as often as possible, because that will be acting as a guiding light, or the lighthouse, whatever you call it. And it will prevent you from distracting yourself.
Very true, sir.
Used to do it very very often.
Mm.
And why I'm saying this, because many coaching institutes or tutors, or maybe even now the online platform also, they try to
Mm.
overdo things, in the sense they will try to ask questions in a manner that is actually not relevant. They
Mm.
will try to pose some problems in front of you which are actually not relevant. So you should be smart enough to judge that what is the trend which is going nowadays, and what are the what is the difficulty, or what is the quality of questions that UPSC actually asks. So that way you will be able to save a lot of your valuable time, and that is the most important thing in the preparation process, that how you are utilizing your time. I
Yeah.
will suggest that you should not be distracting yourself too much, or should not pay too much attention on one particular thing. For
Mm.
example, some people, for the sake of preparing for essay, they pay they spend a lot of time in that. They will read a lot of philosophical book. I understand that, to gain those extra 5 marks, I
Mm.
don't think that you should be spending that much time. Finally, my advice is remain balanced. Some people I have seen, my friends, my colleagues were there. They used to say that I will not read Indian culture, because that appears very very vast and very complex to me. So I will skip that part, and I will instead prepare some other parts, you know
Better.
so that I can score some extra marks there. But I
Mm.
think that's a very fatal, what should I say, fatal approach towards this examination, because you never know. You never know, right? Particularly the prelims
So, sir,
nowadays
how
has
did you
become.
prepare for art and culture?
This was one area, where there was no.
There was no great single resource.
Yes, there was no great single resource at that point of time.
Mm. But
Nowadays,
now,
there is a book by another IAS officer, Nitin Sangwan.
yeah.
But at that point of time, there was no such resource. There was one class 11th NCRT book. There
Mm.
was NIUS material,
Mm.
which was not of very great quality. Even now, I can
And then
say
there
that
was the CCRT ka website.
I don't remember that. I didn't refer that.
So I think,
But
sir, as you were ending, I think 2014-15 were your last attempts.
yes, my attempt was 15 last.
Right. So 14 was my first attempt. So I think वो जो first 2 years का मेरा overlap था, that is when I heard of these things. CCRT की website से करना है ये. मैंने खोल के देखी, इतनी information थी. मैंने कहा ये तो मतलब I had that same approach in my first few attempts. भैया ये तो नहीं कर रहे.
Yeah, I think in that I paid slightly extra attention on this Indian culture part. In fact, I made my very extensive notes also, which became popular for some time, but I never considered that they are good enough to, to be published or something. I got some offers also, but but again, coming back to that, Indian culture in those days, there were very limited resources, and I had to rely a lot upon internet, and I had some interest in that. So I used to pick some threads and used to search a lot on that, and used to make my own notes. So that was my approach. I mean, I used to work on my laptop, so that's why I could. I now I reflect upon. Then I think that helped a lot in organizing thought, because if you are working on soft copy, then
It's
you
easy to
can
edit and play with it.
easy to reorganize it. You can delete something, you can add something, you can put this paragraph over that. So that was the
So that part I agree with you, sir. कि I think because some of the notes that I made were digital, particularly जो मैंने अपने sociology के notes बनाए थे, वो very digital, and it helped that they were digital because obviously sociology is one subject that मतलब optional subject की वजह से आप कितनी ही depth में चले जाओ, right? जा सकते हो, वहाँ पे भी advisable नहीं है कि बहुत ज़्यादा जाओ, but you are always learning and understanding things better, and then you want to add on to your notes. तो उसमें I think digital notes were very helpful because I could then give myself more examples right in my notes. जो कि हैंड रिटन नोट्स में कहीं का मतलब वो फिर थोड़ा घिचपिच होने लग जाता है.
yes, space constraint is there. I mean,
so sir, what was your approach to sociology? मतलब just because I touched that topic, I felt I should ask because Essential Sociology was one book that I also used for revision. Well, I had made my extensive notes, I'd done all of these things, but I think by my fifth attempt I was absolutely bored. बहुत ही ज़्यादा बोर हो गया था भाई क्या करें क्यों करें कैसे करें. तो जो फाइनल अटेम्प्ट था मेरा which I gave in 2020, तो in that one I bought the book also. I revised my own notes. I also revised from the book. I feel it's a great book for sociology. What are your thoughts on how somebody would have prepared in the era before that book was there?
So before the book, the same problem that I or anybody else may have faced in case of say art and culture, that was the same issue. For the paper one, which is related to the Western thought and the concept of sociology, in that case, material is reasonably easily available. Though still that is not in line with the
demand
with
of
the
the exam.
of examination, but still I mean it's easier. But it was the paper two for which it was complete lack of
क्या करें पता ही नहीं.
yes, I mean it was very difficult. So that was the one thing, and as I told you, I was working with Infosys when I was started my preparation, and sometimes this was one thing. As I told you, utilization of time, that is the most important for this examination. And when I used to sit in my office and I used to find some free time, then I used to open my computer or the laptop. Then I used to search something. I used to write something, and that's how I made my own notes. I read a lot of online journals, a lot of online material which was available, or used to scan some chapters at my home. And when I used to come to office and used to read that and used to make my online notes. So that's how paper two thing came. Frankly speaking, there was not even a single book which would address the need of even a single chapter. Frankly, I mean there are some books, say social issues by Rama Ahuja, but that was not relevant for this examination. I mean some help. Then there was book by B.K. Nagla or something for
that I also read that book. That was good enough for some of the thinkers, not all of them.
But that is not coherent. If you see, there are two difficulties in that. First thing, that Indian thinkers, they themselves, some of them, they don't have a very very coherent approach, right? Say if I talk about Karl Marx, then you can simply say
theoretical framework था एक बहुत ही
yes,
well established वो है.
well established. So in 3 lines you can explain who is Karl Marx, right? Say about, if you talk about Ghurye, then about him you can say yes, no, still he was an Indologist, right? He tried to correct the perception of the Western academicians. So he was struggling with that. Then if you talk about M.N. Srinivas, so he tried to give good concept, good definitions. But if you talk about ideologically or in terms of try to put some academic stamp on him, then it's very difficult for you to put. And rest of the thinkers, after that, A.R. Desai, we call him, he was a Marxist thinker. He was a Marxist thinker, but in terms of ideas, I mean, we don't find that typical Marxist stamp on that. Then apart from them, any other thinker you talk about, it's very difficult to pinpoint the key idea about them. They're and that's very difficult to remember in that case. And since you don't have standard resources, then you have a self-doubt also. Okay, what you are reading is whether that is correct or not. Instead of scoring marks, whether that will lead to deduction of marks or not. So that was a big challenge while I faced, and that was the reason that I had to work really really hard in figuring out what is the truth about the paper 2. and I think that's the
And so for
reason that.
that reason, your book is a great resource for paper 2. क्योंकि मतलब पर्टिकुलरली वही मेरे को याद है कि पेपर 1 सॉर्ट है, मेरे भी नोट्स बढ़िया हैं, ठीक है. पेपर 2 इज वेयर द गैप वाज, क्योंकि मैंने भी रैंडम चीजें कर करके कि भैया कभी इग्नू के नोट्स बना लिए, कभी यहाँ से बना लिए, ये कर लिए. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई बॉट योर बुक व्हिच वाज कि भाई पेपर 2 मुझे एक ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से कोई दे दो, उसके ऊपर मैं ऐड ऑन करता रहूंगा. बट दैट्स वेयर योर बुक रियली शोन थ्रू, एंड दैट्स वेयर योर एफर्ट फॉर दैट completion also shows through, sir.
In fact, if I mean, it's just not related to this context, but I had my notes completely ready. I mean, they were covering paper 1 and paper 2, and they were in soft form. So when publisher LexisNexis, they approached me and they said ki, if you want to work with us, then I sent them my notes. But after sending those notes to them, I felt if we are talking about a book from an academic perspective also, then the book is still not up to the mark.
Academic is difficult,
Yes.
obviously, sir.
So you will not believe, I read around 30-40 books even after that. I was selected in IAS. Half of my training I had to I had to spend a lot of time on that. I used to sit in libraries. I used to read a lot, cross verify, and the book was revised. And that was the first edition. And for the second edition, we did the same thing again. And the second edition now is even more refined. If you see, we have tried to explain a lot of we have tried to introduce a lot of new elements, and particularly paper 2. So around 100 pages of content we added again. So I think if you are writing a book, then it should be not merely crediting yourself with something. It should be addressed towards the needs of the audience first of all, and towards upholding the benchmarks of quality. I mean, that's the one thing that you, or maybe I, or many other also lament, that the quality is a big casualty if we see literature,
Indian literature in particular,
academic books in India. So we try to overcome that bottleneck, and maybe the readers who can better judge whether we have been successful or not in that.
So I particularly found it very useful, and I know a lot of the people who are preparing for sociology tend to look at it in a very positive light. Yes, it's a great book, but sometimes I feel that people, take it to an extra level, which means कि मतलब they think कि सिर्फ ये किताब पढ़ के sociology हो जाएगा. So what's your take on that?
What I think that see, we have been noticing since last 6 years or so, 6-7 years, that nothing has come out of that book in the last 6 or 7 means. If you have read this book, then you will be able to attempt everything. But about this examination, and when actually I left my that thread incomplete when you were asking how one should start the preparation.
Yes,
then regarding starting, I said that you start with one book for one topic. But I left that incomplete in the sense that once you are confident in that, then you should start exploring some other perspectives, other sources also. Why I'm saying this? Because if you read only very limited, then lakhs of aspirants are there who are competing with you, and if you are also reading the same source as somebody else, then you will be writing the same thing, and you will at the best will get average marks in that. So now to score extra, you have to gain something extra.
So I think whenever I'm mentoring people, sir, and I obviously agree with you on this. You see the bookshelf behind me. So this was, I later on realized that कि first attempt लटकने के बाद, second attempt थोड़ा सा लटकने के बाद, I realized कि मतलब ये extra reading जो मैं कर रहा हूँ ये नहीं करनी है. It took me a year. मैंने same किताबें बैठ के पढ़ी. But then I realized the same thing कि हाँ मतलब same किताबें मैंने पढ़ ली. But now I need to contrast it so that it will stick with me better. And that is not a subtext that is easy to convey to people in the first go. Right? क्योंकि पहला स्टेप में आपने बोला कि एक ही किताब लो, एक ही किताब से पढ़ो. एंड अभी थोड़ी देर बाद बोल रहे हो कि भाई आपको बाद में जाके 2 किताब पढ़नी है जब आप इससे कंफर्टेबल हो गए हो.
Yes, obviously. I mean, you cannot, as I told you, it's like eating. I mean, you cannot fill your mouth
with everything all at once.
With everything which you cannot chew. It's as simple as that. And I think there is a lot of psychological burden also. If you have some task unfinished at your hand, then you feel psychologically burdened also. So to avoid that situation, I think you should not be 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 having too much in your hand in the initial phase of your preparation. Once you have reached a comfortable level, then you should explore reading more. And why I'm saying that once you are comfortable with, say I if I give an example, that and if you have read NCRTs of Indian history, then if you read some other book, then you will be able to note that there are only a couple of things which are new for you. There is only some limited information which is new for you, and maybe you can extract only that part and note it down somewhere. And that's again what we mean by what is note making, that you have one thing as a standard. Say I'm Lakshmikant as your standard resource, and whatever else you read, whether from the newspapers or somewhere else about Indian polity, then you can note them down separately. And that is the only way, because you cannot have an infinite number of resources with you. That is difficult to revise also, right? You need to revise also at the time of the examination, whether prelims or mains. So that's the reason. And now I think now you got your answer, that whether you should read anything else apart from essential sociology. Yes, I would definitely recommend that. And whenever somebody asks me, I also give the same answer to them, that yes, you should read at least one good dictionary, whether it is Penguin, Oxford, or say Say's publication. Generally I recommend these three. They are good. Rest I am not sure. One dictionary you can take. And secondly, the new NCRT books, which are actually good for paper 2, because they have been written in a narrative form. They have a lot of illustrations. They are not merely theoretical. That's why I recommend that you should read new NCRT books. And apart from that, things are very scattered. Maybe some book has one or two topics very good. That depends upon your appetite, that how much you want to chew. That's it. But these are three basic things that you should read definitely. And maybe IGNOU notes also. Some IGNOU notes selectively you can refer. But the problem with the IGNOU notes is that probably their writers are different.
Writers are different के अलावा, sir, you have to find those notes first, and then you have to go to the index of all of those notes. You have to find the topic that you want to read.
Absolutely.
That topic is spread out over like multiple editions of those notes. कि एक BA में मिलेगा, एक MA में मिलेगा, एक यहाँ मिलेगा, एक वहाँ मिलेगा.
And sometimes you find some conflict also. Suppose if you are reading in MA, then maybe something else was said in BA. So that's one thing. So you have to fix your approach. You have to remain coherent. That's why I suggest that first of all you read a single book. Once you are comfortable, because why that is important. For example, if you take any topic, say in sociology, you take what is dialectical materialism, right? In dialectical materialism, which is fairly standard in terms, but because the reason is that Karl Marx wrote in German, right? Then there were translations. Sometimes the words
in translation, yes.
Yes. So different people, they interpreted things differently, but you have to find a common denominator. That is the biggest challenge, and that's why I'm saying you should read one good standard book initially, and when you get a grasp on that concept, then if you read something else, then you will be able to navigate more easily from the second source. But if you say it's like navigating through the markets of Delhi. If you have to buy, suppose, a traditional dress, and if you first go to Karol Bagh, then you go to Chandni Chowk, or then you go to say Lajpat Nagar,
आपको आइडिया लग जाएगा क्या हो रहा है.
आइडिया लगेगा, लेकिन है ना, फिर भी आपको थोड़ा डिफिकल्टी रहेगा. बेटर तो ये है मेरे हिसाब से कि आप एक मार्केट में यार समझो पहले चीजों को कि फैब्रिक क्या होता है. ठीक है ना, कलरिंग प्रोसेस उसका क्या है जी, उसमें एम्ब्रॉयडरी है वो क्या है, मशीन से कैसे दिखती है, हाथ से की हुई कैसे दिखती है. Once you understand those nuances, now you are fit to navigate through all the markets. This is what I think.
So sir, what you've just described is essentially critical thinking, right? कि आप जो भी चीज देख रहे हो उसे गहराई से एक बार देखो कि भाई इसमें कौन से पार्ट्स हैं, एंड आर दीज पार्ट्स नेसेसरी फॉर यू. जैसे हम कपड़े की बात कर रहे थे, तो भाई अब अगर मार्केट में मुझे दिखाया जा रहा है सिंथेटिक कपड़ा, मुझे लेना कॉटन है, तो मतलब ये तो मार्केट ही मेरे लिए पॉइंटलेस हो गया ना.
Yes, absolutely.
So this is sort of a critical thinking which I feel sometimes people find very hard to develop. And obviously essential है ये. जब तक आप ये नहीं कर पाओगे तब तक आप पेपर निकालने में मुश्किल ही रहती है. तो how can somebody develop this kind of थिंकिंग, बिकॉज स्कूल में बहुत ज्यादा नहीं सिखाई जाती है.
Yes, that is true, and that's why कि ये एग्जाम है ना सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स का नहीं है, ये एग्जाम सिर्फ मेंस का नहीं है, और ये एग्जाम है ना इंटरव्यू के बाद तक है ना आपका वो रहता है, मतलब इसके साथ में नाता. अगर ये इस तरह की अप्रोच नहीं डेवलप करते ना, तो मैंने देखा है, आपने भी शायद देखे होंगे अपने कलीग्स जो भी साथी हैं, कि यार मेंस तक सब बहुत कॉन्फिडेंटली निकल जाते हैं, लेकिन फिर एकदम से इंटरव्यू में दिक्कत आती है उनको, क्योंकि वो एक सोचने का जो एक तरीका है, अप्रोच है, वो मे बी शायद उतना मैच्योरली डेवलप नहीं होता. उसका तरीका एक ही है यार, कि अपने पैरों पे सोचो यार. जो सामने वाला अभिजीत क्या कह रहे हैं, नितिन सांगवान क्या कह रहे हैं ना, यू
सच्चाई है
टेक
कि नहीं है.
एवरीथिंग विद स्लाइटली विद अ पिंच ऑफ सॉल्ट. That is actually critical thinking. That if you since you are a student of sociology और हमने पढ़ा है वो, then the same this is something which Max Weber used to say, right?
Yeah.
कि आप है ना, you evaluate things in their own worth, not because somebody who is saying those things. So वो this is the basic tenet of rationality. So you have to be rational. You have to evaluate things in terms of their own intrinsic worth, कि उनका क्या है, not by their outer coating or their sugar coating or whatever you call that thing. That is the most important. And if we see, whatever the debate which goes in newspapers or maybe different media, you have to apply your mind. And I think some fundamental guiding lights can be whatever is written in our constitution, or whatever was being said by a lot of great political or philosophical thinkers, that gives us a fair idea. And I think when you are reading something else apart from your syllabus, say you in the top left corner behind you, I think those kind of books may sometimes help you, and they actually give you a fresh perspective also.
Yeah.
That
so it's okay. I mean, if I have to think about a problem, how do I think about that problem? Right. So, the process of meta thinking, which is also essentially critical thinking, that if I'm thinking about something, how do I think about it?
How to approach about that, yes.
Right. So like for a very simple example, सर ने बहुत ही बढ़िया तरीके से ब्रेक डाउन करके दिखाया था कि भाई कपड़े के मार्केट में जा रहे हो तो देखो तो होता क्या है कि भाई आपको जरी का काम चाहिए या आपको एम्ब्रॉयडरी चाहिए, आपको मतलब पतला कपड़ा चाहिए, मोटा कपड़ा चाहिए, कैसा टेक्सचर चाहिए, बॉर्डर चाहिए, नहीं चाहिए. तो लाइक ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आर वे टू थिंक अबाउट द फाइनल डिसीजन दैट यू हैव टू टेक, व्हिच इज कि लाइक कौन सी साड़ी खरीदनी है.
Yes. Basically, introspection is very important. You should maybe even if you spend say 10 minutes every day, what you have learned so far, what you know, what is the there is a very basic test. There are some things that you know that you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, there are some things which you know that
पता है कि हाँ मतलब ये चीज नहीं आती है.
There are some things which you don't know and you don't know. Right.
Yes.
वो वाला जो एरिया है, that you have to minimize that area first of all. ठीक है, ताकि अपने क्लैरिटी रहनी चाहिए हमेशा कि यार कि मेरे को पता है, मेरे को नहीं मालूम, मेरे को पता है, मेरे को मालूम है. तो ये वाला एरिया मैक्सिमम रहेगा. आई थिंक that's very important in the whole process.
So sir, in the last couple of days before the exam, 28 मई को अभी prelims आ रहा है फिर से 2023 का. What would be something that you would suggest that candidates do to maximize their chances for prelims?
The first thing that I told कि एक तो कोई भी एरिया वीक मत छोड़ के जाना. No, you should not leave any aspect of your syllabus uncovered, because that can prove very fatal. Particularly, people do this mistake in case of 2-3 areas. The first is obviously Indian culture, the second is Indian economy, and third is environment. So in these 3 areas you should be covering very well, apart from other traditional areas. That is the first thing. Second thing is, since it is the preliminary examination and now certainty has increased and this phase has the maximum competition, you should be from today onwards, you should be completely focusing upon only this aspect. I would suggest that from say today 16th, then you should not be reading the optional subject today onwards, right? You should completely focusing upon general studies only. Third thing is, if you don't have that background, then you should not take CSAT also very lightly. You should have at least that much level of preparation that you will sail through it very comfortably, right? You should have that confidence, because sometimes it hurts people a lot. I have seen people who have scored very good marks in GS1, but somehow they couldn't sail through the CSAT part. So that is the third thing that I would like to suggest. And fourth thing is, this is something, everybody says, and I will also say that your preparation at this phase should be that you should be covering as extensively as possible, because the nature of examination, I have seen the prelims papers of past couple of years, while writing the second book of mine on history, that the kind of questions which are asked nowadays, uh, they have changed. I mean, they nowadays ask from medieval history also.
Yeah.
So you have to be conversant with all the areas, and you can simply draw a trajectory in from by reading the question paper of last, say, 10 years, and you will see which are the areas from which the questions are being asked, and try to cover as much as possible. Because for mains you can still afford, if there is a 10 marks question, and if you don't know anything, you will get, say, if you write something about that, you will get 1 or 2 marks. And even if you write very good on that, then out of 10, not likely that you will get more than 5 marks or something. So the difference between you and somebody else who is writing best and you are writing worst is only 3 marks, right? So you can afford there, but not in prelims, because simply you will be out by single mark here.
So यहाँ पे तो मतलब आज की डेट में ट्रेंड ऐसा चल रहा है ना कि तो कट ऑफ जो आता है इट इज एट अ डेसिमल, सेकंड डेसिमल तक जाता है.
यस यस यस.
एंड वो सेकंड डेसिमल तक क्या होता है, ऑब्वियसली दैट यूपीएससी हैज अ लिस्ट ऑफ नंबर ऑफ पीपल दैट दे वांट टू टेक फॉर मेंस. And sometimes the competition near the cutoff is so high, so intense, that there are, like, let's say 30 people who have got 92.63.
I think cutoff has also come down because of the unpredictable nature of the examination.
Very true, sir. ये चेंज होता रहेगा, जितना ज्यादा एग्जाम अनप्रेडिक्टेबल होगा उतना ज्यादा कट ऑफ नीचे आएगा. तो दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई फील पीपल समटाइम्स मिस, कि भाई अगर पेपर टफ आएगा तो कट ऑफ भी नीचे जाएगा, बिकॉज इट इज टफ फॉर एवरीबडी.
Tough for everybody. And as you know, as a word of caution, if you, particularly if you are first time appearing candidate, then don't try to be too much adventurous in the examination, right? You should be able to evaluate how much you have attempted. Then and there you should be able to know, okay, at least, suppose say 70 or 80 marks. This I am very, very certain that these questions can never go wrong. Even in that, you never know. Maybe you can deduct 1-2 marks there. Then you only one is wrong, and so probability is 25% that it will go wrong. 75 is still it will be correct. So that calculation you should be able to make mentally and maybe on paper. By that logic you can go, and never take too much risk if you are borderline candidate, because don't try to attempt so many questions which you don't have any idea. I have seen people that luck doesn't favor them in that situation. So that is a situation that is to be avoided in the examination.
So sir, I will just add a corollary to your point over here, and we'll end the discussion. The point that sir was making is कि आपको aware रहना चाहिए कि भाई आपने अगर एक ऑप्शन एलिमिनेट किया, 2 ऑप्शन एलिमिनेट किए, तो आपके सही होने की प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है. इन अ एमसीक्यू विद 4 ऑप्शंस यू हैव अ 25% प्रोबेबिलिटी कि भाई आपने 4 सवाल मार्क किए, एक बाय रैंडम सही हो सकता है, राइट. नाउ लेट अस से दैट यू एलिमिनेट 2 ऑप्शंस, आपके पास सिर्फ 2 ऑप्शन बचे हैं, 50% प्रोबेबिलिटी है. सो इन सच अ केस सर, व्हाट आई रिकमेंड इज दैट पीपल शुड डेफिनेटली मार्क इट, क्योंकि
they should definitely mark it, but again, as I was telling that, suppose you feel that you are near the cutoff. In that case,
yes, that risk can be avoided.
You should not be very reckless, because it again reduces your probability by 50%. 50% is a great deal, right? So if you are near the cutoff, in that case you should not be reckless. If you are well below say cutoff, then you can afford to be reckless, because already your probability of being selected is low. In that case, taking risk is
छक्का मारने का कोशिश होनी चाहिए.
Yes, in that you can take your chances. I was telling only in that case when you are on borderline, when you are
what sir saying कि don't be misbah-ul haq from the 2011 World Cup.
Yeah, true.
ये 4 बॉल पे 6 रन चाहिए आपको, और आप बिना बात के स्कूप शॉट ले रहे हो, कोई मतलब नहीं है उस चीज का.
Yes.
But you can be somebody like Dhoni, कि भैया क्लोजर है, प्रेशर है, लास्ट ओवर में 20 रन चाहिए, तो भी छक्का मारना पड़ेगा.
Yes, yes, Rinku Singh. You can try to be Rinku Singh, right? Anyway, you are losing. Everybody has lost every hope on you. Even the Satori है वो भी उन्होंने भी आपको hope छोड़ दिया आपके ऊपर में. But then you can take a chance, yes, and you know.
Right. So, and on that note, we'll end the session. Thank you for your time, sir. It was great having you. It was a great conversation. And hopefully
Abhijeet,
we'll
I
have you
think
again.
I enjoyed it a lot, and I wish that all the listeners and all the audience and all the followers of yours, best of luck for if somebody is preparing for the civil services examination, and it was really enjoyable, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.